Hello, everyone, and welcome. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to ThinkYoung's Alumni Talks. I'm your moderator, Udve Enver, Communications Assistant at ThinkYoung. And today we're joined by a very, very special guest, Giuditta Bassous, who is Talent Manager at the International Committee of the Red Cross. So, absolute pleasure to have you today. And just before we get started, we are going, so at ThinkYoung, we're trying to pick the brains of all our alumni and see how we can sort of inspire the next generation to sort of get out there and kickstart their career and sort of ignite that spark that's within them. So thank you very much for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, I guess.
Thank you. So I wanted to start by saying you graduated back at the University of Padua back in 2011 now, so 10 years ago in political science. So tell me, so when you graduated, you came fresh out of university and you must have thought, oh, what am I going to do now? What steps am I going to take? Where shall I go? So tell me a bit about your experience. What did you have any idea of what you wanted to do? Did you sort of have a 10-year plan down the line of I'm going to be this, this, and this, or sort of just tell me about your experience coming straight out of university?
So yeah, I think you have hit the point. As most of people, I think, that graduate in political science is the type of study that you do because you're a bit interested in, what's happening around the world, but you don't know exactly what you want to do in life. So I think that this was exactly me. I was in Italy back then, and I started to look for the job, and I found a first internship. Which was in a multinational company, a recruiting agency at the time, unpaid, just to underline, and just started to work and see, okay, let's see if I like this or not. And this is how I started. And first internship in HR, and at the time I didn't know that this was what I wanted to do in life, to be very honest. So I've tried different ways until I actually got to ThinkYoung.
So tell us like the different ways of before you even got to ThinkYoung. Tell us about sort of how it led you sort of to get there and what you sort of experience you had between graduating and ThinkYoung.
So I've done two internships. One was at this company, Michael Page, and then I've done another internship in a PR company. At the time, was called Barcelona Marsteller in Milan. And what is actually funny is that I've started with these two internships in my life, and a few years later, without knowing, I had a job in the same exact companies, but in two different cities. So I had a first job in Brussels for Barcelona. And then I had, when I moved to Geneva, where I am right now, I had a job also at Michael Page. So just to say that, you start with things that you don't know really why, and you don't really know the reason, and then turn out to be very good opportunities for you in life. So, and it's actually thanks to Barson Marsteller that I also got a job at ThinkYoung. At the time I was working 50% for one and 50% for the other one. And how I got there, I would say to the network that I had. What I was doing, that I always been involved in all kind of students organizations, and I think that this was the key of being able to find always a job. Trying to having a network, even when I find myself still younger, but even when I was younger. And I think that is a bit of the key of, is the only way to really make it work when you just get out of university.
No, I agree. I graduated back in July and I'm sort of trying to find my way through my career. I think networking is absolutely key there, especially at ThinkYoung. You have so many great opportunities. You meet so many amazing people as well. So I definitely agree with that. So how was your time at ThinkYoung? Tell me a bit about what you did at ThinkYoung and any sort of projects that you loved working on, anything that you specifically did that you just want to share with the world, really.
um, so again, I end up at ThinkYoung a bit casually. Let's say I had this first chat with Andrea, and we get along, and then I went to see the office, and at the time at the office there were very few people. I met with Christopher Moore, that was then my partner during my old time at ThinkYoung, and a bunch of other people that has been working with me, but we were 2-3 people at the time. And then while working with Chris and working with Andrea and a bunch of other people, we started to build up a structure that in which we have been working for 2 years. And from 2-3 people, we end up to be 20-23. So there was it was a different story. I don't want to talk about a specific project because yes, of course, the entrepreneurship school is amazing, and you guys do a lot of projects that are super interesting. All the researches. I mean, it's funny because when I see right now in the corporate world or in the international organizations world what the people are talking about, people that are way older than me and way older than you guys, they talk about the same subjects. So at the end of the day, what ThinkYoung is doing, just they're a bit more advanced than the other, and they take in 1 or 2 years in advance. But so the projects are great for me. What was what is the most interesting part was definitely the people I've been working with, which has been people that have been, I'm still talking today, and we are still see each other today. And the fact that you are so young and with, I would say, a small experience, but you have got a huge amount of responsibility if you want to get them. So what happened to me is that, yes, I had this small experience in HR. So I started to do that, and I started to do interviews and to recruit people. And at the end of the day, I end up overviewing an office with 20 people that were in it, in which I was reporting to Andrea what was happening on a daily basis, and with my partner, Chris, in which we're drinking beer and trying to discuss the potential structures. So, and it was 2 amazing years. So, yeah.
No, I have to ask you, what was like your most memorable experience or favorite sort of thing that you've done so far? Like, what's the most memorable thing that comes to your mind when you say, I say to you, you're 2 years at Think Young?
Uh, Honestly, hard to say. Maybe this is not the funniest one. I mean, the funniest one was definitely the galas and all evenings that we organized for an entrepreneurship school that were great. But I don't want to talk about this much because we are in COVID times, and I know you guys didn't have the same experience, and I'm sorry for that. Hopefully soon. But I remember when we started to organize the entrepreneurship school in Hong Kong, and we didn't had at the beginning a team in Hong Kong, so we started to do it ourselves. And we were getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do calls to convince people to come to the school. And when I think about this, and I say to myself, people were motivated to come to the office, getting a croissant, and do calls one after the other one to have people that are coming to the school in Hong Kong. This was completely crazy. But people were doing it, and were doing it happy because there was kind of, atmosphere in the office in which I don't want to say that we were a big family because it's a job. It's not, it stays still a job, but people were motivated to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and, to find a way to make this work. And I was, at the time I was not impressed, but today when I think about this, I'm actually very impressed. So this is once, and then of course you have this amazing opportunity in terms of networking and doing session at the parliament, doing session at the commission, and meeting all these kind of people which you would not have access to if you were not working for ThinkYoung.
No, I agree because I can take that into I see it as well the same for me. So even though I'm maybe 5 6 years after since you've been there, I think for me, I working at Think Young, I can see an impact that's being made as well. So even something I'm doing, I can see like, oh, I'm having an impact on someone who's like changing their opinion on vaccination. Oh, I'm helping someone sort of find their love for coding. So I think that's the beauty about working in an NGO as well, especially a small NGO like Think Young, is that you sort of see the impact you're making and that you sort of get to experience so many different things even in the space of 9 months. This is the most I've ever experienced in my life in terms of experiences and work as well. So I think that's the beauty of Think Young in itself. So what's like one thing you sort of took away from Think Young that you carry on with you to even your job today? Maybe it's a skill you learn or a characteristic you developed or something that you've taken with you to this day.
That you don't try, you don't get it. What I think that what it teaches you the time of Think Young, it's really, you really learn on the job. I mean, let's be clear, there are no 100 managers there, so you need to find a way to do it yourself and with your peers. And yes, of course, you have 1 or 2 people that management that overview, but you need to be creative and innovative, and you need to try. You need to approach people, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but you can't be afraid of it. And I think that this has helped me all over, in the sense that when you apply for a job, well, go for it. Contact the person on LinkedIn if you believe you are the right skills. I mean, of course, we need to do it in a polite way, in a respectful way, and make sure that it makes sense. But if you believe that this is the person you should contact, you should have at your event, well, go and contact and try to get the cabinet and try to get the person. And, all this kind of way of approaching and get things done. Uh, when you are in a big corporate, you get it after years because at the beginning you have very small responsibilities, and there you can get it very easily. But it's really up to you.
I was about to say as well, that's how I started my career at Think Young. So I left a little message to one of my colleagues at Think Young, and then I ended up getting an internship here as well. So I got on that topic of sort of not sort of being brave, sort of getting yourself out there, sort of challenging yourself a bit more. So let's talk about sort of that aspect of it. I know a lot of young people maybe don't have the confidence or sort of they're a bit fearful to sort of let themselves out there. They're like, oh, that person's too high up. I can't contact them. They won't be interested in someone who's just graduated from university. And I always thought to myself, it doesn't matter. We're all in the same boat. They've been in the same sort of place that I've been in at some point in their career. So, what sort of advice would you give to young people who are maybe a bit more hesitant to be a bit more bold or be more approaching in sort of, or a bit scared to sort of approach it from that way?
I think that when you approach someone, you know where you are and you know where he is. When I'm saying this is that I've been approaching people where I knew I was not ready for the job. And most of the time it didn't work. Um, there are two different, you might have a chance. I mean, you might be lucky and get it. But when you look at the job description honestly and you yourself and the job description, you know if you have the competencies or not. I mean, it's written right there. If it's written 6 years of experience and you have one, well, you don't have the other five. I mean, it's very as simple as that. So I think that approaching it's something important. And for all the hesitant people, I would say, uh, go for it, because yes, maybe you shouldn't contact Mark Zuckerberg, but besides that, I don't think that it's everybody can reachable, and especially today with social media and LinkedIn and all, really everybody's reachable. But do it in a smart way. Reach to someone that you know can give something to you. Don't reach it. Don't think that because you are a young person, then they own you something. They don't own you anything. They will give you something if they think that you're valuable. And you can be very valuable also without experience, because you can be a very smart person, you can be creative, you can have leadership, you can have innovative mind, you can understand what the new generation are doing. So this is something that companies want, but show it. Because nobody will hire you because they're nice. They will hire you because you value something.
No, 100% agree with that. So saying from a perspective of someone who's just graduated, a lot of young people, I know from myself, I felt like this, and a lot of my friends have felt like this as well, is that then nowadays it's very, I used to have 6 years of experience, to have 3 years of experience, and you just graduate, you're like, there's no opportunities here for me because I clearly don't have that experience. I haven't had the time to sort of gain these experiences in my life. So what would you say, because as you did mention, you said it doesn't really matter if you have the experience, if you can prove to them that you have what it takes, then they'll give you the opportunity. But I was saying in terms of, what would you say to a young person that's probably, how can they gain experience in a way that maybe they can't have if, obviously, they come out of uni, they can't have 6 years of professional experience. What kind of things can they do during
They
university
can get
or during
involved.
high
They
school?
can get involved with organization. They can do volunteerings. They can get involved with their organization at the university. All this they can all this kind of um, you know volunteering or whatever um, activities that you do, they count. Uh, get an unpaid internship at your own city if you cannot afford yourself to go in a different country. Start. I mean, I understand that the unpaid internship is unfair, and I'm not gonna get into that subject, but start with something. Show that you're ready to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to work, and I promise you, someone will see that. But if you wait that it's gonna come to you, it will not come to you. So it needs to come from yourself. get involved, be active online, because today we don't, unfortunately, we cannot do this, networking at conference and things like that because we don't. But you can be active online, and people see that. You can participate to conferences light, and then you thanks the person that has invited you, and then you start a conversation with this person. So there is a whole way of doing that gives you a network, and this network is relevant then to find a job. And I'm telling you something that somebody told to me, and I think it's very true. You need to build your network when you have a job, not when you're looking for one. Because when you're looking for one, you're just someone that asks. While you have a job already, the people will not be afraid to talk to you because you don't need anything. And that's going to be the time where your network is going to become actually interesting.
I have to say, I've never heard that piece of advice before, but I'll take that in as well. So in terms of sort of networking, especially with HR, you must get an influx of messages on LinkedIn with young people or just people in general looking for a job. And sort of, it's just in HR in general, like you get loads of CVs come in and there's people with random experiences, people are not qualified, anything like that. But what sort of sticks out to you? What sort of characteristics do you think is important when you're starting a job or you're looking to apply for a job? What sort of characteristics pop out to you as someone who works in HR and looks for people with talent?
So I think it depends on the environment which you've been working in. The first thing, we are looking for people that are stable, if we can say, in the sense that you do your university and then you start for your internship, you finish your internship, and then you maybe start for something else. And what I'm looking at, the logic in it also. It's someone that didn't just do it everything random. There is a logic. You want to arrive somewhere. There is a vision in it. He has a reason why he's applying to the position that he's applying for. It's not just completely random. It's possible that the first or the second experience are a bit random because, as we were saying before, you don't know what you want to do. But at a certain point, there must be this logic. The second thing is the potential that the person can have. So the languages, the international experience that he had, as I was saying, if he was involved in some activities, this for me, it's key. I mean, it's very important. Usually people that has been doing volunteering and things like that before are people that are used to give and are used to, for example, not to count the hours. So they are going to work hard until they actually, finished, and they will want to do it well. So it's a mindset that it's behind. So what I think that organizations are looking today are people that, of course, they want to evolve and they want to stay in the organization, but also what they can bring is the mindset. So somebody that is, can show that it's hard worker, and that um, that comes with a disruptive mind, and can propose you something, and then propose you something that makes sense. In interviews, you have more and more business cases. You have questions that are about the way in which you think, because the competent, of course, we are looking for competencies. We're looking for operational people, but especially when you hire interns, the competencies you're going to teach them afterward. I mean, besides if you are a doctor, or there are very few type of job that we cannot learn. I mean, you need to study for it. Otherwise, all the rest we can all learn it. I mean, it's just a question of putting yourself there and wanting to do it. So I think companies today, I'm talking about big companies, small companies a bit different, but they have an internal way of training their own people, and to make sure that they have their own way of thinking. I mean, if you go to work for Procter and Gamble, they will start. They actually take only interns. They don't take you when you are senior. They take you when you are an intern. Why? Because they have their mindset, and they want to make sure that you are a Procter person and you think like them. Or if you go at Google, it's the same. You need to become a Google person, and there is a specific mindset, a specific way of doing. So what they will ask you in interviews is the way in which you think, and not the competencies that you actually have.
I actually want to pick up a few things that you said as well, but I want to start with the whole idea of sort of having a path. So you need to, like, when you're looking for a job, you need to know what you're doing. What about someone who has absolutely no idea? Say they're about 1 or 2 years into their career, they've done a few internships, they've maybe had a job, and they still don't know what they want to do. What sort of advice would you give to someone who's still on the fence, really?
I mean, there are different ways to understand what you want to do. The first one is to start do something, and then you will realize what if you like it or not, I would guess. And the second one is to ask the senior people that are around you what they do, and try to see if it's something that you might like or not. If you, but again, if you don't start to do something, and for me, doing something, it doesn't need to be when when I when I see people that tell me, yeah, I didn't got an internship in communication something, so I'm not doing anything. Go to work at McDonald's 3 months, and then maybe they will hire you because you will meet someone that will help you, and whatever it is. I mean, the staying at home and watching the screen and saying, "What I'm gonna do, I don't know what to do," doesn't help.
Oh,
So
I
I would
100%
say a bit
agree.
of hands-on, and you're gonna find what you want to do.
Yeah, I think that's the struggle for a lot of young people. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what to do. It's just a case of just having to get yourself out there, pushing yourself, and
No,
sort of
but
seeing
I
what comes your
understand
way.
because there is so much out there that we don't know what to do anymore. I mean, it's a problem. I would say for rich, not in terms of rich, but because we are very fortunate to live in this world in which we could do anything we want. So we don't know what to do anymore.
Exactly. I wanted to ask as well. So, in sort of the age of social media and with HR, there's a lot of issues in terms of how you portray yourself in social media. How sort of, say, you type your name into Google and what comes up. Do you?
Mm.
What sort of advice would you give to young people in terms of sort of navigating their way through the digital world and sort of finding a career in that sense? Like, should they be cautious? How should they really go about it?
I think that young people are way smarter than us. Not well. Uh, I would say other generations, and they care about their privacy. And I think they're very smart about it because, well, we're all looking. HR, whatever HR is looking before you hire someone, you take the CV and then you Google the person. And I wouldn't say that you shouldn't be yourself, that you cannot post anything. I mean, we are all humans. Being at the end of the day, we are not all in with a tie every day for all our lives. So we all know that. But be smart about it. I mean, at a certain point, someone will see it. So I understand when you're 15, you don't realize that, but then yes. So yes, I would advise to clean a bit before you apply to something. There's something you should hide.
And I know a lot of my friends at university just quickly hide some of the Google search. It doesn't matter anyway. It happens when you're younger, so it's a normal part of growing up. So as well,
But
I'd
not
love to
only for
ask.
your professional life, huh? For everything. I mean,
Definitely.
we should be careful because everybody can
Definitely.
take over everything. So
Like, you don't. Whatever you post is going to stay there for years to come.
yeah,
It's very
exactly.
difficult to remove
Yeah.
what's on the internet now. Oh, I wanted to ask as well, actually. So when you're doing HR sort of recruitment type stuff, and you get the CVs and you have interviews with these people, and I wanted to ask, what sort of things should someone bring to the like for an interview? What should people bring to it? What sort of qualities or aspects should is really important for them to? I know we sort of spoke about this before and you sort of highlighted this, but in terms of when it comes to CV and sort of interview stage style stuff and actually getting hired, what sort of things should or main things should they keep in mind?
First thing, HR, whatever HR it is, whatever recruiter it is, um, they receive thousands of CV, hundreds of CV. So how much time do you take to look at CV? 7 seconds. If you're not able to read it in 7 seconds, then the CV is not worth it. Maybe 13, but I mean, it's a question of seconds. It's not a question of minutes. It's a bit harsh, and I understand this, but it's the truth. I mean, when you apply, you open a position and you get 500 CV, and you need to look for them in 4 days. Then that's what you do. You're very quick. And then once you have your CV, you have read your CV. Let's say you have selected 20 of this 500, then you start to read the cover letter, but only at that point. So the cover letter is a second step. What would I advise you to do? One page, not more. Then it depends on the type of country in which you are, etc. There is picture, not picture. I like to see people personally because I think that when you picture, then people knows who you are. But that's a very personal thing, and I know in certain countries you're not even allowed to put your picture. Um, And when you arrive to an interview, most of companies are looking for people that adhere to their values. I don't know if you've seen that, but whatever companies the website you open, which is starting from Boeing to Google to Coca-Cola to ICRC, they all have a page related to values, which is something that people adhere, and that you're gonna have a question about that, 100% in every interview. Um, and this it's probably not the first question, but it's the last question that decides if you fit to the company or you don't fit to the company. So I always say to try to be honest, because our job is to understand if you're lying. And we have seen a lot of people. I mean, in my life, I think I don't know exactly how many interviews I've done, but a lot. And most of the time you can detect this, not always. You can you can do a very good interview and then be a disaster when we hire you. It happens. But why you should be honest? Because even if you pass the interview and you get a job, if it's not something that you will like, then you will not be good yourself in this job. So I always advise to people, be honest, be open, be structured, of course. But when you get to the interview, if you see that the company is not fitting with you, then I don't know if it's really worth it, because you will start your job and then 3 months later you're going to be at the same position, at the same place. So I don't know if it's really worth it.
No, it's a very interesting take. Thank you for that. I just wanted to quickly ask before we finish up. I want to talk a bit more about the EU and how the EU sort of focuses on youth and inspiring young people, sort of sparking that ignition in young people. Sort of in terms of the EU, are they? Do you think, especially maybe on more the EU level than the national level, do you think they're doing enough to support young people in the beginning of their careers, or giving them the right starting point? Really.
I think ThinkYoung saw it very early about when they launched the first skills mismatch. So no, of course they are not supporting enough, and I think that right now there is a huge crisis related to education, especially after COVID. And I don't want to take only about young people. I mean, we can talk about kids. It was a year of disaster for people that were in schools, and what the European Union is doing today to repair this, I don't really know. I don't think much, and there is a huge job loss. And what the European Union is doing about this, yeah, well, they're giving money to countries, but let's see how they're going to use this money. So I mean, we all know that is not enough, and yes, they should appoint someone that's this is the only thing that he does. He makes sure that people have the right skills and the right education to have a job today, because the skills are changes, what is needed is changing, and the type of education that we have in school stayed the same of 20 years ago. So how the two things can go together, don't really know.
Hopefully things improve from here on out. I want to actually ask you, so say you were the president of the European Commission for the day, what's one thing that you would change in terms of young people and their careers? What's one thing that what change would you implement that would make a positive difference?
Some countries already do it, but I would make sure that everybody that goes to universities has 1 year of obligatory internship, or at least 5 months. Or I really do think that um, I really do think that we have people that are super academics, and then they arrive the first day of their internship and they don't know how to open a computer. I mean, we need to be a bit more practical. So everybody should have a working experience before they get out from their bachelor or master's or whatever they do.
No, I agree. Internships can be a great way to sort of kickstart and sort of put you straight into the deep end, but in a good sense. I actually wanted to ask you. So you come out. So if you were to tell your younger self, so you've just graduated uni, if you could catch Giuditta, who's just come out of the University of Padua, and say, what one thing would you tell her to sort of guide her through her career? What's one thing that you would just tell her in general? What piece of advice would you give her?
I would say not to be afraid. and that nobody gives you nothing for free. So, uh, just in the sense that not to be naive, and maybe what I was saying before, that try to see what is your value, and why you understand that you're going to have a job all the time, um, because people will want you. So probably it's that.
And I think every young person watching can take that bit of advice as well. So thank you very much for that. I just want to say thank you for joining us today as well. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. I think you've given, especially myself, a lot of things to think about, and probably a lot of young people and older people as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you to
Um,
you.
thank you. So I want to say to our audience as well, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully see you next Tuesday. So thank you very much, everyone.